Imagine you are 13 years old, standing in the middle of a street in central Hiroshima, tearing down a wooden house with your bare hands. It's not a punishment, it's a school assignment. Thousands of students have been pulled out of class that summer to demolish buildings and clear fire breaks in case the bombers ever come. For months, they haven't. Hiroshima is one of the only major Japanese cities that hasn't been touched. No one quite knows why, but people have started to relax. It's just past 8 in the morning on August 6th, 1945. The sky is clear, the air is still and strangely pleasant. An air raid siren sounded earlier and stopped. It happens most days now, and almost nobody bothers to move. Reverend Kiyoshi Tanimoto, a local pastor, has already been up since 5, helping a friend carry furniture across town. Streetcars are running, shopkeepers are opening their doors. Around 350,000 people are going about an ordinary Monday. At 8:15 a.m., a single American B-29 appears above the city. Its crew calls it the Enola Gay, named by its pilot after his mother. On board is a bomb 5 meters long, nicknamed Little Boy. It falls for 43 seconds. At 1,900 feet above a T-shaped bridge in the city center, it detonates. For everyone within half a mile, there is no warning, no sound, nothing. The temperature at ground level reaches roughly 7,000 degrees Fahrenheit in less than a second, hot enough to vaporize a human body and leave only a shadow burned into stone. At a bank branch near the center of the blast, that shadow is still visible today. Someone sitting on the steps, waiting for the doors to open, gone in an instant, their outline left behind like a photograph. At least 80,000 people are killed before they have time to understand what has happened. Tens of thousands more are burned, buried, or blinded where they stand. Almost 90% of the city's doctors and nurses are among the dead or wounded. In the same instant, their hospitals collapse around them. There is no one left to organize a rescue because the rescuers are victims too. One building near the very center of the blast is left standing, its dome stripped to a bare iron skeleton. It's still there today. They call it the Genbaku Dome, the atomic bomb dome, and it's one of the only structures from that morning that anyone can still point to. The boy tearing down houses that morning, along with thousands of other mobilized students working in the open air of the city center, is among the most exposed people in Hiroshima. Many of them never make it home. Their families spend days searching hospitals and ruins for a name, a shoe, anything. In the days that follow, the fires spread faster than anyone can fight them. People die of injuries that don't look fatal, then of a sickness no one has a name for yet. Radiation poisoning, striking healthy-looking survivors weeks later with bleeding gums, hair loss, organs failing one by one. By the end of 1945, the city of Hiroshima estimates that roughly 140,000 people have died from that single bomb, nearly half the population it had that morning. 3 days later, on August 9th, a second American bomber carries a second bomb, this one called Fat Man, toward a city named Kokura. Clouds and smoke cover the target. After 3 passes, running low on fuel, the crew turns toward their backup target instead, Nagasaki. Tens of thousands more die there, in a city that was never even the plan. If the sky over Kokura had simply been clearer that morning, an entirely different city would carry this history instead. Among the survivors of Hiroshima is a 2-year-old girl named Sadako Sasaki, living a mile and a half from where the bomb goes off. She survives the blast without a scratch. For 9 years, that seems like the end of her story. Then, at age 11, doctors find leukemia in her blood, one of thousands of delayed deaths the bomb is still causing a decade later. In the hospital, she folds paper cranes, chasing a legend that 1,000 of them grants a wish. She doesn't get her wish, but her cranes are still folded by strangers around the world today, which is its own kind of survival. On August 15th, Japan's Emperor Hirohito speaks to his people by radio for the first time in history, announcing the country's surrender. Some soldiers, hearing the news, attempt a coup to stop it. They fail. The formal surrender is signed weeks later on the deck of an American battleship, and the deadliest war in human history ends. In the story most people are taught, this is where it becomes simple. 2 bombs, 1 surrender, a war that might otherwise have dragged on for years. American military planners had already drawn up an invasion of the Japanese home islands, and their own casualty Honestly, estimates for that invasion alone ranged from the hundreds of thousands into the millions on both sides combined. From Washington, ending the war in days rather than through a land invasion looked like the option that cost fewer lives overall. That argument is still made today by serious historians, and it isn't a fringe position. But from the ground in Hiroshima, none of that was visible. There was no invasion fleet on the horizon, no soldiers landing on a beach, no enemy to see coming. Just a clear sky, a single plane too high to hear clearly, and then a light brighter than the sun. Well over 90% of the people who died that morning were civilians. Students, shopkeepers, mothers, a pastor moving furniture, a boy tearing down a wall for a class assignment. So which version is the true one? The strategic decision that ended a war, or the sky opening onto a city that never even saw its attacker coming? Maybe, like the very first contact between strangers 5 centuries earlier, it depends entirely on which side of the light you were standing on. If you had been that boy holding a shovel in the street that morning, unaware that anything above the clouds could end your world in a fraction of a second, how do you think you would want history to remember what happened to you?